on that first try. So, what we're going to talk about today, kids, is a beautiful story. And it's what Jesus does to sort of start this celebration of what we call Easter week. He knew it was going to be a really hard week. Good Friday's on the way, he knew that was going to be really hard. And he also knew that a lot of his people who had followed him and his parents and his siblings, they were all going to feel really sad to see him leave. But he knew that he'd see him again, and he knew where he was going, which was up into heaven. And so what he decided to do was he decided to have one last meal. And it was a beautiful meal. And that's what we're going to talk about is this last meal, how Jesus made this decision. You know what I want to do? I want to share a meal with my friends. And I want to show you a picture of that, kids. Here's a picture of it right here. It's a beautiful picture and about sharing that last meal. That's why it's sometimes called the Last Supper. It's also, we celebrate it today, we call it communion, which is interesting because think of that word communion. What does that word sound like, kids? Sounds to me like community, and that's what it was really all about. So let me read you the story here, kids, about this last meal. Jesus wanted to celebrate Passover and share a meal with his friends so he could say goodbye. By that time, many people looked up to Jesus as a great leader. This made some of the priests and the Roman rulers very jealous. There were people who looked how popular he'd become, and they didn't like that at all. Jesus knew that they wanted to arrest him and that his life was in danger. Jesus knew that it was time for him to return to his Father to go back to heaven. And as they all sat around the table, and this kid's like, imagine a big flat table there, and he's got 12 people seated around him, 12 of his friends. And as they all sat around the table, he picked up a loaf of bread. After thanking God, Jesus broke the bread and passed a piece to each of them. So he picked up some bread, and he broke it and gave each of them a piece. This bread is my body, he said. Then he took up a cup of wine. Again, he thanked God and passed it around his friends. This is my blood I'm pouring out for you, he said. Whenever you break bread and drink wine like this, remembering me, and remember that someday God's dream of everyone sharing and caring, loving and laughing will come true. So kids, I want you to think how beautiful that is. You think about this big table and Jesus having 12 of his closest friends around. And what he does is he says, oh, I've just so much wanted to have this last meal with you. So that's what he does. And he gives them a piece of bread, and they each break off a piece of bread. And then he gives them a glass of wine. And kids, you can even make this symbol with me. He gives them a glass of wine. They all take some of the wine too. So they break the bread and they drink the wine, and that's how he shares this beautiful last meal with them. And why did he want to share that last meal? Well, kids, do you remember what I said right when we started? I said this is sometimes called communion, and we even celebrate it today. You may see your mom or your dad or your family may celebrate communion with some bread and some wine. And it's this idea that we're going to remember this very important moment. And Jesus really wasn't so concerned that we remember bread and wine. That wasn't the point. The point was that we remember communion, and we remember that community is part of communion. That we remember that our job is to gather all kinds of people around the table and create community. That's what Jesus wants us to do. And that's why he wants us to celebrate this, to celebrate Holy Supper, communion again and again and again and again. And thousands of churches, millions and millions of people, millions of people will do that this very week just to symbolize this banquet. And think about how different that was. You had one group of people over here, and they were over here and they were complaining and they were jealous of Jesus and they were looking at how they could get rid of him. They're plotting and all that. And here's this other place over here. Here's Jesus over here. And here's Jesus, and he just says, look, I just want to share a meal with my friends. I just want to get together, and I want to laugh, and I want to have fun, and I want to have joy, and I want to share memories with these people who are really precious to me. That's a much better kind of communion, wouldn't you say, kids? And the beautiful part is we can all be part of it. I love this story that someone told me, which I like a lot. So I imagine a lot of you kids have played musical chairs, right? And you know, with musical chairs, you put chairs in the middle and then everybody goes around them. When the music stops, you got to try to sit down real quick. And there's always someone left without a seat. So they're out, just like a game of tag. They're out. And it keeps on going until you have one chair and two people. Music stops. Who gets in the chair? And that's the winner. Well, that's one way. And it sure is a fun game. Nothing wrong with that game. And yet Jesus is asking us to do something a little different. Imagine a game of musical chairs like this. Every time the music stops, instead of one chair getting taken out, another chair gets put in. And another person joins the game. And then we go around, the music stops, another chair gets put in, and another person joins the game. I think that's the kind of community that Jesus wants for you and he wants for your family. It's one where we're looking to always grow our communities, where we're always inviting people in. I tell people all the time, like here in our Big People's Church, you know, I want anyone who comes, whether that's online or in person, for them to feel like, oh, they've been waiting for me. This is a great community that I want to be part of, because that's what really matters about being a Christian, is that we can all do it together and we can create these beautiful, loving communities that really do amazing things. So that's my thought for today, kids. And I hope that makes sense as we go into Easter week. And just a special reminder, next Sunday we have our special family Easter service. So that will be our big service. We're going to do that all as a big family service. That will be at 10:30 a.m. And if you're living in the Philadelphia area, you and your family are welcome to come here in person to where we are at New Church Live, or to watch online, which is how most people do it these days. But either way, I would love to see you at that Easter service. All right, kids. So that's the close of today's little kids service. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to do a little prayer and a little blessing, and then we'll say goodbye. So let me do a little prayer with you kids here. Lord, thank you for these wonderful families who've joined us this morning. Help us, Lord, to remember deep in our hearts and deep in our souls what that last meal was, all about community. Help us to welcome other people around our tables, wherever they're from, with kindness and with friendship. Our prayer: Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace and bring you home. Amen. All right, kids, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.